Okay, step number 2 on our storage chest, we're going to start assembling this together using our shaper table. Now if you want to follow along with me on your blue paper, it says in order to make the end panels for your storage chest, you'll be making what's called a raised panel. To do this you're going to use the shaper table to shape your rails and stiles. We've already pre-cut these on step 1. You should have 4 stiles. Those are, I believe, 13.5 inches long each and 2.5 inches wide, and you should have 4 rails. Each of these are 9 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. That was step 1. And you've labeled them rails and stiles so you know which board is which. Next, it says mark an X on the best face of each of your rails and stiles. What we're doing here is we're choosing what part of the board people are going to see. We've talked about this before. You want to make sure people see the good looking part of your board, because if you look at some of your boards here, they might have, you know, some knots on one face and the other face is pretty clean. Or maybe it has a big scuff mark or something, but just choose whatever part you want people to see and put an X on that. So I'm just going to quickly look at these boards. Maybe I like this face better. I'm going to put a big X on that face. Do that to each of your boards here. Whatever you think is the best looking face. Both those look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and go with that one there. Whatever one you think is the best face, put an X on your best face of all your boards, just so we know what part we want people to see. And it's really not that big of a deal. It's just personal preference on what part of the board you want people to physically see. Because one face is going to be on the outside where people see it, and then the other face is going to be on the inside that you only see it if you lift the lid open. So really they're going to see both, but most of the time they're going to see the outside face. So we marked an X on this. Next, number 3, it says use the rail end cutter shaper to cut both ends of your rails only. Remember to use push sticks for this and place with the face with the X down. And there's a picture there that shows what we're talking about. It's so important you do this to the rails only, not the stiles. So go ahead and just grab your rails. We're going to come over to the rail end cutter on the shaper table and we'll show you this. So come on over. Okay, rail end cutter. That's right here, and it's labeled rail end cutter. There's also some push sticks. I want you to definitely use some push sticks. You don't want this shaper blade to hit into your hands. Definitely use these push sticks, please. You're just going to do the end of each rail. So you've got your rails, we've got our X down, and it's listed right here as well to remind you. X down. Please have that face down. You're doing both ends. And this board is just going to go this way right across our blade as it cuts through on both ends. And I do want you to use these push sticks here. One push stick can go right behind it to help push it along. The other push stick can go right on top of it just to hold it down tight when you do this. Okay? Turning it on, down here's a little switch. Kind of loud, it's really not that hard to do. Go ahead and push slow and keep it tight down and tight against the fence. Gonna run that through. You want to get both ends, so we got one end here. When you flip it over to the other end, be sure that your X is always facing down every time. I've had a lot of people run at one end, they look at it, oh cool, and then they run the other end with the X facing up, and then it doesn't work out. So you got to have the X facing down every time. Run that in there. Okay, and do that to all of your rails, all 4 of them. X down, end grain, use those push sticks. Flip it around. If your board comes away from the fence, you're always welcome to run it again. It's not going to take any more off than what it needs. So run it again if you need to. All of them, X down. One more, X down. There we go. Biggest thing on this is just keep firm pressure down, tight against the fence. Get those hands out of the way. Use those push sticks. Okay, next, step number 4, it says use the style cutter. So we've got another shaper here. This one's labeled style cutter. Shaper to cut one edge of your rails and your stiles. Place the face with the X down. Use the power feed, that's this thing here, to run your board through. Be sure the boards are tight against the fence from feeding your boards on the power feeder. This one is probably the easiest thing to use. You just have to make sure you turn on the power feed. It helps pull your board through. And as long as you have the X facing down, it should work out. On this power feed, there's a little switch up on the top, and it's got a couple different settings here. One of them shows a turtle, and the other one shows a rabbit. We want it on turtle, okay? It's going to go slower. We don't want this thing on rabbit where it's going to zip these things through really fast. So you're just going to turn that little knob over to the turtle, and it'll turn on a little power feed, and that's going to grab our boards and pull them through. So we don't even have to have our hands on these boards when we're sending them through here, okay? We also want to make sure that you're doing the rails and the stiles. We're just doing one edge of all 8 of your boards, your 4 rails and your 4 stiles. I know it says style cutter, but you're still doing the rails as well. You're going to have your X facing down, and you can run every single one of these boards through one after another. It's really quick. You just have to make sure they're tight against the fence as you run this through. Okay? We need the dust collection turned on for this. So if you don't have the dust collection on, all these shavings are going to come out. So just make sure you have the dust collector on. All of them. X down, just one edge. It doesn't matter which edge. Just choose one edge. X down. There's a little on button right here. X down. Run it through. It'll grab that board and it'll pull it through automatically. You're going to put your next one right behind it and just send them all through. X down. Now if you need to, have someone catch for you on the other side so they don't fall off the table. X down. Every single one of these, just one edge. X down. And it's nice and easy because it pulls your board through for you. Once they're all through, go ahead and shut it off. Don't forget to turn off that power feed. And as we look at these, you know that cutter is going to cut a nice groove in there, and it also does a little decorative edge on here. If for some reason that's not nice and straight and the same depth all the way across, you can run them again. It's only going to take off what it needs to. Occasionally these do come away from the fence. You might have to run them again if that happens. Then all we need to do is fit these things together. We're going to make a little frame shape. So we got 2 rails and 2 stiles, and we're going to put them together like a little square. This may happen to some of your boards, and I want to make sure you guys see this. When I ran my rails on the rail end cutter, and then I also ran that edge on the style cutter, there's a little piece right here that sometimes does not get cut. And I want you to just break that little piece off if that happened there. So sometimes you'll notice that on the ends here. If I flip it over on this side, I can see there's another small little piece right here that can just break off. And I want you to break those little pieces off because sometimes those get in the way when we try to put these things together. It usually just happens to your rails, not your stiles. It's just on that small little piece on the ends there. Now we should be able to fit this thing together. Your rails and stiles is just like a puzzle. Fits them together. And we're making the framework of our end panels there. Don't slam this thing together so hard that you break it, but you do want to get some firm pressure on it. And it should fit together like the little picture frame there. So, okay, there you go. Get both of them put together, get my signature on your page, and that's step 2. Really simple. Thank you guys.